All of the Triple Crown polo games can be viewed at www.live.aapolo.com. That's live.aapolo.com. And you'll find all 19 games of the upcoming Abierto at Palermo broadcast live. Don't miss a game. They've been great so far. In this polo report, Triple Crown polo report, we're going to talk about the odds of each team winning the Abierto and how we go about handicapping them. Essentially, I created three categories. There were definitely three different brackets, so to speak. Not brackets, let's call them categories, I think is better, because I don't want to confuse you between the A and B bracket of the tournament. These are three levels or categories of teams. We've got the A category, or the gold, which is going to be 37 through 40. You've got three teams in that bracket, that category. You've got Ellerstina, 38 goals. La Dolfina and La Natividad, both at 39 goals, make up the three teams that stand the best chance of winning the Abierto. Natividad is the defending champion. They're at 2-1 odds. Dolfina is the winner of the other Triple Crown event this year. They're at 3-1. Ellerstina would be at 5-1 odds. They have a very good chance of winning it as well, although they have lost to both Dolfina and Natividad and La Ensenada. I think Dolfina has lost one game to Natividad by 1 goal. Could have gone either way. They're on quite a roll this year. And Natividad dropped the one game to La Aranita Grand Champions, who made the finals of the Hurlingham. The next bracket would be the silver bracket, which would go from 33 to 36 goals aggregate team handicap. We've got another three teams in this group. You've got La Aranita Grand Champions at 36. You've got La Ensenada Manos Sanctus at 34 and Cria Dolfina at 33. I've got Grand Champions at 10-1, La Ensenada at 20-1, and Cria Dolfina at 30-1. La Aranita Grand Champions is a great team, and they have a great chance of winning it. At 10-1 odds is probably the best bet, wise to make, because it pays a little better and they've got a real shot at winning it. They were one of the four finalists so far. We've had four different finalists in the Tortugas. We had Ellerstina and Natividad, and then Saturday, we had Dolfina and Grand Champions. So we had four different finalists, and those would be the first four teams we're talking about. Grand Champions has a 36-goal handicap. They're in the next bracket down because they obviously have an 8-goaler. In that gold group, we have 9s and 10s only. You could theoretically have an 8 if you had 2 10s or so, but the way it is now, it's only 9s and 10s to be in that top bracket. The next group down, next category down, the silver, we've got 8s, 9s, and 10s. And so it's a little bit lower. And what you have to keep in mind is for polo handicapping, the higher the handicap, the harder it is to achieve. As you go up the mountain gets steeper. So the leap or the climb from 9 to 10 goals is far greater than the leap or the climb from 8 to 9 goals or 7 to 8 goals. Every step up, fewer and fewer players can make it, with the very hardest being 9 to 10. And so what happens is when you have comparison between a 10-goal player and an 8-goal player, it's a bigger gap than you would see between, say, a 2-goal player and a 4-goal player, because the gap between the ratings is smaller the closer you get to zero. Very few players ever make it to 10 goals, and very few players make it to 9 goals, but even fewer still make it to 10 goals. As you go up that ladder, it's harder to do. And so you have to keep that in mind, because when you look at, say, a 39-goal team versus a 36-goal team, you say, geez, it was only 3 goals out of 40. It's not that much. They should be pretty equal. But you have to remember that those goals count more the higher you go, because they're harder to achieve. Okay, and so the last group we have here is the bronze, which is 28 to 32. We have 4 teams that are in the Abierto that have qualified. Ironita Klenova, 30 goals. Ironita G squared at 29 goals. And then the 2 teams that qualified most recently, Ellerstina at 29 goals. I hope I said that right. And Eache, Laichache at 29 goals. I've got those guys at 100 to 1. I've got Ironita Klenova at 30 to 1 and Ironita G squared at 29 to 1. We have another 6 teams that didn't qualify but really belong in that bronze bracket because they're within 28 to 32 goals. You have Alegria at 29. You have El Overo UAE at 28. Chapeleufu at 30. La Canada at 30. Trenque Lonquin at 29. And La Fiji at 28 goals. All 10 of those teams make up that bronze bracket. They don't have a whole lot of chance at winning the Abierto. Like I said, I've got Klenova 60 to 1, G squared 75 to 1, and the 2 that recently qualified at 100 to 1. It's possible, but it's not likely. This bronze bracket has players from 6 to 8 goals, essentially. And so it's made up of 6 to 8 goal players. The silver bracket, like I said, is 8, 9, and 10s, mainly 8 and 9s. And then the gold bracket, you have your 9 and 10s. And that's why the gold bracket is so much more dominating than the other brackets, you know. If we look at the Triple Crown and who's been playing well, my personal opinion, obviously, I think the top playing 10-goal player so far has been Hedda Castagnola. He's been playing lights out. 9-goal players, we have Perotto's been playing great. And Sapo Cossette had an incredible game against Ellerstina. Played a solid 10 goals. I was really impressed with him that game. He's playing very well this year. Perotto's playing incredible. Top 8-goal players that I've seen play, Juan Martin Zubia played fantastic in yesterday's final against La Dolfina. He just was scoring a whole bunch. I would move him forward. I think they make a mistake putting him at back. He doesn't have enough possession time on the ball, you know. I would get him a little farther forward so that he maybe put him at 2 or something. So he has more time on the ball and he's not stuck in the back there. He's, getting balls coming at him from both directions. You want your best players to have as much time of possession as possible. I think that, personally, let's finish this out first. So we have 7 goal players. I have Joaquin Peter Luga and Felipe Debas and 6-goal player Cruz Hege. What I was going to say is I think Ellerstina makes the same mistake, honestly. And who am I to tell Memo Gracida and Gonzalo Perez how to run a team? But what I don't understand is why would you put your best player, probably the best player in the world, in a position that he doesn't have as much time of possession on the ball? The one position probably has the least amount of time of possession because he's only getting balls hit basically from behind him. He doesn't, it's the easiest spot to play because you don't have to hit a near side back, or you don't have, you put your weakest player at 1, keep him out there, send him the ball. But the amount of time they're going to be on the ball is going to be less than the back, who's got to be a little better player because he's got to make that near side back. And then, the 2 would be the next best player because he's in the middle, getting balls from both directions. He's got to mark the opposing 3. And your best player, your quarterback, plays 3. The quarterback, or the 3, has the most time of possession on the ball. He should. There are a couple exceptions to that. We'll talk about that later. But generally, the 3 is going to also be the most dominant player. I don't think there's anybody more dominant in the game than Facundo. 2 guys are going for the ball. Well, my money's on Facundo. I mean, he's got incredible stick work. He's incredible horsemanship. There's nobody in the hole, so to speak, or in the fray that's stronger. He's an incredibly dominant player. Why wouldn't you want your dominant player in the hole, getting the ball, turning it around? You need your strength there, and you need your time of possession there. I would want to maximize, his time of possession. The best basketball player has the ball in his hands the most. The quarterback on a football team has his hands on the ball the most. You want your best player having the ball, and you want to put him in position to have the ball. And by putting Facundo at 1, I think you're minimizing his ball time, so to speak. I also think that Ilario needs to be freed up. Ilario Hilo is an incredible player, and he's tied up with the other 3, which is an unselfish thing to do, and he's playing well. But I would like to see him freed up a little more, and if he had a stronger player behind him, I think he would score a lot more. And let Gonzalo go play 1. Gonzalo's been having a hell of a tournament. Gonzalo's been dead-eye in scoring. I put Gonzalo at 1, Ilario at 2, and then Facundo at 3, and just shake up what you're doing. First of all, you might as well do something different. You've lost 3 games. You've got to try something different. And I would get my best player on the ball as much as possible. Let him run that team. Facundo, when you watch him play in the United States or in England, he's such a dominant player and he dominates the game. I think, he is trying to be share too much, not wanting to, treating everyone as equals and putting him out there. And I know he doesn't play 1 all the time, that they all rotate positions. The number in the back doesn't, once the game starts, it's a whole other story. But, Facundo tries to be a disciplined player. And I see him trying to allow the other players to pivot that ball and rotate it, back and hit it back up to him. And I think they're making a mistake by not putting their strongest player in that position. They don't have a player more dominant than Facundo. They don't have a player that handles the ball better than Facundo. They have a better player that can pass better. Hell, he can score from anywhere on the field. He's going to still be scoring at 3. He'll be bombing them in from midfield or wherever. He's got an incredible talent. And I think Ellerstina would be better served to see him moved back. Let's talk about Adolfo and Peroto. Now, here's another. Adolfo wears 1, but he doesn't play 1, right? Adolfo still plays 3, and Peroto plays 1. But Peroto, there's a difference between Adolfo and Peroto may have the best synchronicity or the most unique synchronicity I've ever seen between 2 players. Barto and Hedda are incredibly together, and they play as one, so to speak. But they play very differently, They know each other very well, and they can always pass to each other. They always know where each other is. They have incredible unspoken passing, but they have very different styles, They mesh together, but they're different. Adolfo and Peroto are like the same player. They have the same style. Peroto is essentially taking Adolfo's place, and he's slowly been doing it over the last couple of years. And now you see him slid back to 3, taking the penalty shots. Peroto is becoming a really dominant player. He has great stick work. But Dad, when the ball is thrown in, still goes in the hole, still goes in the fray, still goes in the Adolfo is probably the most dominant player in the world. I'll call several of these players the most dominant or the number 1 player in the world because they are. There can be more than one number 1 player in the world. I think Hedda and Facundo are both the number 1 player in the world, and I throw Barto in there too. He's an incredible player. And so when I say the most dominant player in the world, again, we're talking top 3 or whatever, top 5. Adolfo is still as dominant as anybody. His game is much more like Memo's now. He uses his head a lot more. He's not so flashy. He's not nearly as quick as he used to be. But what he lacks in physical ability. He's 47 years old. He's doing fantastic. He still plays 10 goals, but he's no spring chicken. But he uses his brain to compensate, and he's smart. He's smarter about where he goes, how he goes, when he goes. He anticipates better. He's much more of a field general than he ever was, as far as I'm concerned. And even though he wears the 1, he's still playing 3. He can't help it. He's going to help Peroto as much as he can, and so he's driven to get into the melee and take control. And you'll see Peroto shoot out to 1 all the time, scoring out in front of everybody. He may be the quickest player in all of polo. He and Hedda. they're going to set a new standard of 10 goals at 16 or whatever, 17 next year, and 19. Just imagine in 10 years from now, a decade, when they're in their prime, just how good they're going to be. I think they'll change the game in terms of quickness. I think they're the two quickest players, and Hedda, the most deliberate player in polo today. Now, even though Hedda wears the number 1, he really plays all the positions. Hedda, here he is in this video clip playing back, and you'll see him playing 1 and playing in the middle. He pretty much free roams and plays all the positions, and he can do that because he has Barto behind him. Adolfo got to play 1 with La Spadana because he had Gonzalo Pires behind him. He had the best player in the world behind him. So a talent like Adolfo could play 1. But if you don't have the best player in the world playing 3, or one of the top 3 players in the world playing 3,
Castagnola with the approach
to
send it big to find the equalizer. Here comes Polito for 9-0. Polito, Pablo Pires finding the net. A very nice play by Camilo Castagnola.
And Barto's an incredible number 3. They have a unspoken synchronicity that's just amazing. But like I said earlier, they do play very distinctly different. Barto tends to be the anchor, tends to pivot the play, and Hedda tends to do the more flashy scoring and running the whole field, and as he should, because he's the most deliberate in all the polo. He sees it and he makes it happen. He follows through on his visions, probably better than anyone. He's very deliberate. He executes. That's what a 10-goaler does. A 10-goaler doesn't waste opportunities. They execute, they score, they follow through. Hedda is an incredible player at 19 years old and 10 goals. We're really watching something special. I think Proto is right behind him. They're two, and Barto too. They're going to change polo in the sense that in another decade, when they reach their prime, just imagine how good they're going to be. I mean, they're great now, but they're going to get even better.
Let's take a look again.
And every game they get better, every tournament they get better. These teams are going to get tougher
all the way in.
As these kids mature. It's going to be something
a great saving there
pretty
by
exciting
one of the players.
Watch.
Barto Castagnola.
So sit back and enjoy it. I'll be enjoying it with you. Here's a couple players I forgot to mention. As I said before, all these games can be seen at live.aapolo.com. It's liveaapolo.com. You've been watching Grandotes Triple Crown of Polo Report. Would appreciate it if you would subscribe. Just hit that button. Thank you.